The title of my dissertation is Walking the Line Between Ludology and Narratology. Ludology being the study of games and gameplay, and narratology the study and theory of narratives. I want to look into these two subjects because I find them both very interesting and important to make high-quality games. I want to go into the industry as a scriptwriter because I always like to create narratives and fictional worlds and characters. In my opinion, games are the best current media to tell stories, since they allow the player to interact with them, and at times even take part in the narrative and change the course of the story. Gameplay is also very fascinating to me, and looking back to game ideas I had when I was younger, I find that my game designs were either heavily based on story or on mechanics in the game. One idea would be completely based on a character and their development, while another one would be completely about functionality and the unique experience certain mechanics would be able to offer the player. After studying game design and development, I learned that they both play big roles in the game industry, but how they're used varies drastically from game to game. Some games, for example Until Dawn, put great focus in narrative, branching game scenarios and outcomes, and have very simple mechanics that some gamers would hardly call gameplay. Other games, such as Doom or Overwatch, despite having plot and characters if you look into the lore, don't need narratives and instead keep the player interested and focused with challenging or competitive gameplay. I want to be able to make successful games in the future, so this dissertation will take a look at both narratology and ludology to help decide which one of them is more important to make quality games. Does it take more gameplay and mechanics rather than narrative and compelling characters, or should they both be balanced and play equal big roles? These are some of my aims for this dissertation. Ultimately, I aim to get a further understanding of both ludology and narratology, how they work and what their strengths and weaknesses are. As I said earlier, I want to know what makes them important in games and if one of them is deemed more important than the other. Are games with heavy ludology and little to no narratology more successful than a game that is balanced with both, or the other way around? To help determine this, I want to look into successful games in the past and present to help decide what part of their design made them and continues to make them successful. I'm curious to see if this is something that has changed over the years. The objectives to achieve these aims would be to research both ludology and narratology from academic texts and books, to then be able to compare them in how they make games enjoyable and replayable. I will also be analyzing games for this, and I picked 3 main games that I will be playing through and compare. For ludology, I will be playing Doom, the original one and parts of the recent remake, since the game is heavily designed on gameplay and mechanics and has little to no narrative to it. For narratology, I will be playing Life is Strange. I picked it based on recommendations when I asked for heavily based narrative games, and after reading through a couple of reviews and seeing the awards it has won, I am confident it will be a good narrative experience that will come to use when writing my dissertation. Originally, I was going to go for a heavy ludology game and a heavy narratology game. The narratology game was then going to be BioShock, as it is recurrently mentioned in books I've read about game narrative writing. It was, however, brought to my attention that despite being a game with great narrative design, it does by no means lack in gameplay aspects because of it. This made me realize that BioShock is a very well-rounded game and have great balance between its ludology and narratology. Because of this, I made a third section in the dissertation proposal that will be focusing on games that are well balanced in gameplay and story. Life is Strange was added as a narrative-heavy game, and BioShock was moved to be used as a well-balanced game. Finally, I'll also be conducting surveys to get more public opinions from gamers that will hopefully differ from what I've learned from academic texts. One of these surveys will be online for anyone to take. The second one will have the chosen few participants play through parts of games that are balanced or heavy on the ludology or narratology side. They will then be interviewed about the experience, and hopefully this will help gather stronger data compared to what can only be found in books. For research material, I already acquired and started reading 5 books. The first being Level Up, The Guide to Great Video Game Design by Scott Rogers. This was the book that introduced me to the term ludology back in my first year of university in the Game Design and Development course. It got me interested in the subject, which eventually led me to read up about narratology as well, since they are commonly mentioned together in narrative chapters in academic books. The book itself is a very good read, and I enjoy reading the chapters because of its witty way of constructing sentences and relying information. However, the book don't go too deep into the subjects that I need to study, and it will mainly be used to build a foundation that further research will be built upon. Slaying the Dragon, Writing Great Video Games, written by Roger Denton Bryan and Keith Giglion, is another pleasant read. The chapters are short, and the subjects discussed are easy to understand and follow along. I picked this book out because it explains how narrative works in video games, but it also compares game narratives with movie and TV show narratives, which offers new insight and viewpoints that will hopefully be used when writing the dissertation. The Ultimate Guide to Video Game Writing and Design by Flint Dial is a book I've used before to help understand narrative and script writing in the game industry. It's very reliable in teaching what a game narrative needs to work and how to keep the story interesting, as well as intertwine it with the game tasks and gameplay, something that is very important to understand for this future study. Understanding Video Games by Simon Eggenfeldt Nelson is one of my personal favorites in this collection. The chapters in the book are long and academic and like to challenge the reader to think about what's being said. The end of all chapters have columns of suggested tasks and debates for the reader to participate in to help gain a deeper understanding of the subject. Within the narrative chapter, the book even goes over ludology and its history and how it fits together with narratology. The Art of Game Design, A Book of Lenses, 2nd edition, by Jesse Schell, is a well-written academic book that really dives into all aspects of video games and video game design. It has a way of breaking the subjects within its chapters down to the basic blocks, and then build them back up again, effectively teaching the reader how the subjects work and how they are to be used with their full potential in game design. This will help to get a deeper look into the study of gameplay and the study of narrative, which will be critical to this dissertation. I also found a website simply called ludology.org, which was created by Gonzalo Frasca, the man that invented the term ludology. On the site, archives of research as well as Frasca's own dissertation about ludology can be accessed, something that will without doubt be of use for my own dissertation. For potential research material, I might look into video game storytelling, what every developer needs to know about narrative techniques. I do however think I have more than enough material focusing on narrative, and I will only look into this book should I need more information about the subject. In Search of Video Game Narrative Potential is an academic article that I would like to get a hold of, but currently haven't found available. Trigger Happy 2.0 is a book I would like to get regardless of the study. I've heard great things about it and how it debates and discusses theories and widespread opinions on different aspects of video games, which I believe the ludology part of the dissertation could benefit from. As mentioned in my mains and objectives, my main secondary research will come from the books just mentioned, combined with any video or documentaries there is to find about the subjects as well. As mentioned in my mains and objectives, my main secondary research will come from the books just mentioned, combined with any video or documentaries there is to find about the subjects as well. My main primary research will come from the 3 games I plan to play through and analyze. To repeat, I will be playing Doom as a ludology-based game since the game don't have much of a narrative, and simply invites the player to go ahead and explore and shoot anything that moves. The balance game will be Bioshock, as it has great narrative combined with great gameplay. The game goes far to explore the world's lore and characters, but also offers a lot of different abilities and set of enemies that keep the gameplay interesting and fresh as you progress. Finally, the game also has 2 endings that are decided based on the player's decisions and how they played the game. The narrative game will be Life is Strange, based on the many branches and scenarios in the game that offers narrative engaged players to go back to see different results based on different decisions. Other games will also be briefly looked into to get more data to compare in the future. Games like these would for example be The Sims and Age of Empire for ludology, as they don't have much of the set narratives, but instead give the player loose goals and let them create and imagine the rest on their own. For balanced games, I will have a quick look at games like The Last of Us and Dragon Age Inquisition, as they have deep lore, story, and characters, but also interesting gameplay mechanics and in-game decisions and options. For narrative-based games, I will look into games like Until Dawn and Heavy Rain, as these games are mostly based on quick-time events and decisions that will eventually affect the game's outcome and endings. Back to the surveys. The first planned survey will take place online and will focus on questioning gamers what type of games they like and usually play. What games do they go back and revisit? Do they replay games at all? Are characters important in games? What type of game mechanics do they like the most? Etc. I hope to get at least 20 people to fill this survey out, but we'll try to get as many participants as possible by boosting the link to the survey on different social platforms. If I find that I'm not getting sufficient data for the survey, I will conduct a second one and edit my previous questions to fit the data I think I'm missing. For the second survey, I will be handpicking people of different ages with different careers and different interests. I will have these people play a couple of selected sections of games, either of ludology, narratology, or balanced natures. I will most likely make different people play different games to make sure the younger participants don't play mature games and to get slightly different data. I will still make sure the games I pick for this get played by at least 3 people each, so I'm not basing information on just one single individual. The games I picked out for this is Beyond Two Souls and Facade for narratology, Overwatch and The Sims for ludology, and The Last of Us and Thomas Was Alone for balanced games. I will sit down with the participants while they play the game in case they need assistance, and then ask them a couple of questions and discuss the experience with them. Ask them what they enjoyed and give them some background facts about the game they played. During the gameplay section, I will be taking notes, and at the Q&A, I will record the conversation to re-listen and analyze them later if needed. The games I picked out for this is Beyond Two Souls and Facade for narratology, Overwatch and The Sims for ludology, and The Last of Us and Thomas Was Alone for balanced games. The subjects I'm studying are deep and have a tendency to branch off into other theories and subjects outside of the aim for the dissertation. I have already found myself straying from the core purpose more times than one, since I easily get curious and want to look into other passing and mentioned studies. In hope to avoid this in the future, I will attempt to carefully section what I really need to go into and do my best to keep my focus on the right research. One of the bigger constraints I will have with this study is time. I will need enough time to research and read through books, but also balance my tasks from other projects and works. I will certainly need to put away some hours into playing my chosen games and to analyze them. However, a lot of time will also go into the second survey, as I will have to get a hold of the people I want to participate and make sure they have time to do the tasks. The game sections I want them to play will take some time to play through by themselves, both because I might need to play through the game far enough to get the required section, and because the section might be lengthy and take some time for inexperienced participants to get through. In hopes to solve this, I will make sure to talk to the participants beforehand and schedule times when they are available. If they for some reason won't be available on our agreed dates when the time comes, I will have contacted a backup for the same date beforehand just for that reason. Should the sessions, that will most likely involve 3 game sections, take too long, I will break them down into smaller parts that will be scheduled out separately. The final constraint will be my budget. The books I've already acquired have a combined value of £110, and the other books I've looked into will raise that figure to close to 200. The games needed come up to a similar value. To combat this, I will try to find the needed items in the university library or the game design course. I may also be able to borrow games from friends and family. If I can't get these items by these means, I will single out the most necessary ones and use my personal budget to acquire them. To write and research this paper, I will need the following items, programs, and devices: Microsoft Word, and LibreOffice Writer to write the paper. Which one will be used will depend on computers, as my personal computer runs Libre and the university computers run Microsoft. LibreOffice Impress is being used right now for this presentation and might come to further use for further slides and the likes. Microsoft Form will be used to conduct the online survey and make it accessible online. Recording software for the interview involving the second survey haven't been decided upon yet, but it's likely that a phone app will be used, or possibly a mic connected to my laptop in order to use Audacity, the program that I'm using right now. The local university's library will be used to access books that I haven't yet acquired myself. The games will most likely be bought and added to my personal collection, and most of them will run on my personal laptop, PS4, and TV. Needed games and consoles that I don't personally own will be able to be borrowed from the university game design and development course or from friends and family. The timetable I have planned will look like this. During week 48 of 2016, I will gather secondary research. I will have bought and/or borrowed the needed books that have previously been mentioned in my literature survey. From week 48 of 2016 to week 11 of 2017, I will do my secondary research. Gathered books will be researched and analyzed thoroughly. During week 1 to 2 of 2017, I will do my first primary research. I will be playing through and analyzing the original Doom and parts of the recent remake. During week 2 to 3 of 2017, I will do my second primary research. I will be playing through and analyzing BioShock. During week 3 to 4 of 2017, I will do my third primary research. I will be playing through and analyzing Life is Strange. During week 4 to 5 of 2017, I will be doing my first primary research survey and make it accessible online. If needed, during weeks 6 to 7 of 2017, I will edit the first survey if the data it has provided turns out to be inefficient. During week 8 to 10 of 2017, I will hold the second survey combined with interviews. From week 11 of 2017 and onwards to the time of the due date of the assignment, I will be organizing my findings and start writing the dissertation. Extra time may be used to do further research. This is how the layout for the dissertation will look like. It will start with an introduction of the subject and the study before going into the research I've done on methodology and narratology. This will involve the games I played and some of the information gathered from books. I will be going over my methodology before jumping into results, and after that I will start the discussion that will involve a brief recap of the study that will then lead into my primary and secondary research and the results. Finally, I will get to the conclusion of the study and then end it with my reference, source list, and bibliography. This is the end of the presentation, and the following 3 slides will show any references that have been mentioned. Thank you.